Hey folks, welcome to the show, Room Rock's 3 Songs Podcast. This is your host, Bay. Today we have episode 5 for you. As promised, we've got the Sundown Professor coming to us out of upstate New York with his 90s retro sound and his 3 songs, Why, Please Silence Your Phones, and Local Deli. It was a lot of fun talking with Sundown Professor. Really picked my mood up listening to his music. It just makes you want to get up and do some things. So, just real quick, before I let you go, I want to tell you 3 things that are coming up on Room Rock. We've got a video podcast called 1.5 Music Videos, where we discuss music videos. We've got all the extra stuff that I always talk to these artists, and there's so much to say, and I can't fit it all in the podcast, so I'm going to have something called Green Room on our online magazine, On the Ground, on minus1000.com. And it's all the stuff you missed, but in a writing. And I like writing, so something nice for me. And we also have to look out for that's coming soon. It's called In the Round and On the Ground. And it's where musicians get together and they just talk and talk and talk. So that's also a lot of fun. So look for that stuff. And enjoy today's show, and we'll talk after. Thanks, guys.
Probably tell from my music now that I'm a big fan of fuzz pedals. So one of the first albums that really got me into kind of different music than what I'd grown up around was Smashing Pumpkins and Siamese Dream. And just that, I don't know, there's something about the big fuzz sound that was so different than what I would hear on the radio, on the classic rock station, or my parents listening to country music. So that really caught my attention. I think it was so different to what I had experienced before that it became what like music should be to me, because I was like, oh, wow, that's so cool. You know, that's the thing that me back when I think about recording my own music is I love playing music. I love learning how to play different instruments. I don't love messing around in audio interfaces and dealing with all that. I don't want to play on a computer. I want to play music. My dream would be to get independently wealthy where I could like walk into a studio and have them hit all the buttons and I could just do my thing.
That would be pretty cool.
Yeah, that would be. That's everybody's dream.
That, you never know. You never know. I forget the order, but I think the first one you wanted to talk about was The Way.
Yeah, sure. That song probably kind of speaks to some of what we kind of talked about already. I mean, in terms of the recording, it's actually a busted mess. It's one of the first songs I ever tried to record, and the guitar riff just repeats throughout because I didn't know how to do anything except play a riff and kind of loop it and jam along to it. I had written some lyrics that are kind of again, about a little bit what we talked about earlier, kind of being mad at God for the time I've wasted not playing music and being mad at God for other reasons.
What the fuck? Hurry up! Come on, let's go!
One of the first songs I recorded and posted, I think, on SoundCloud. And now I listen to that song and I cringe a little because I think the recording's so bad. But at the time, it was, it was the best I could do. And to kind of like post one of your first songs and actually get encouraging feedback through places like SoundCloud kind of inspired me to keep going when, otherwise maybe I wouldn't have. I think it's a cool song. I would love to go back and kind of record it, but at the same time, I feel bad when it's out there and it's been on Bandcamp and people have bought the music, right? And so, not many people, of course.
I want to hear that story.
Only a couple, but at this point, it's like, I feel bad. Like if somebody spent money on that, and then you're like, here's a way better version that I posted. Yeah. So someday I would love to kind of record that song again, and kind of give it, I guess the proper treatment and kind of iron out some of the kinks. I've learned a few tricks since that recording. Whereas at that time, for example, the lyrics just all recorded in one take, and so whether I mumbled or messed them up or there's differences in volume, I just had to kind of roll with it because I didn't know what else to do. Very much kind of that album, very much kind of a COVID album, I guess you could say. Since it suddenly I was, working at home all the time, and that meant that I was kind of sitting out here in my music room, fiddling around a lot when I maybe should have been working, and and so I had to, it was like, hey, I'm going to try to actually write a song and record it. So I did, and it's imperfect for all those reasons.
And the way you're talking about it, you've noticed these like flaws that I never picked up on. I think it sounds great. I really like that.
Yeah, I think I could fix it up. It's one of those songs that, like, if I had a friend in my car and they were like, I want to hear your music, and if we just turned on like Spotify, if that was the first song that came up, I would be a little embarrassed because I just know that it's rough, and I would worry that they would hear these there's some timing imperfections in the song with the way I recorded it. And honestly, it's probably one of those things as the artist that you notice and that other people might not, because you know what you were trying to do or what should go where, and somebody else might just hear it and be like, hey, it's a banger, great.
Exactly.
Too. But on my end, I'm like, oh God, that's not what I even wanted to say in that line, or I don't spend a lot of time thinking about the audience, and I just kind of do what I think sounds good, and the recording process, I guess I don't think about the audience a lot, but certainly once I post it and, if people react, that kind of, we feed off that, and it's like, okay, that reached somebody and they didn't recognize what a pile of crap it is. And so that, maybe I'll try again and record another song. Like I said earlier, it was kind of like a lot of people, I don't necessarily believe in God, but I'm mad at God a lot. It's kind of a song that maybe expresses that idea a little bit. There's a line about, like 8 billion people here, and that idea that, like, if there is a God, how are they keeping track of all of us? And, not that that's a unique or individual idea. I think I say something in the song that's a lot of people to be talking all the time. Like, how do you kind of process the idea of some kind of higher being that gives a crap about 8 billion people and counting? And, it was something I was struggling with, and it, to tie it into something more personal than just that general kind of angst or anger that a lot of people have about God and the state of the world and that kind of thing. It was me also complaining just about that idea of kind of like, have taken so long to get into music and make music and kind of wasting time, and those kind of ideas of, maybe I could have been doing this for my living, maybe, instead of doing it on the side.
So the next song is, I guess you don't have any particular order, so we could do Please Silence Your Phones.
Sure.
World's in your hands, but you're on your own. Please silence your phone.
The technology's become so fundamental to us that it's like it's a part of our DNA. It's a part of how we kind of function. I think most people, unless you live in a cave at this point, are are kind of unable to even separate like who we are as individuals from this constant stream of stuff that we see through our phones and our TVs. And I'm not turning off my phone or turning off my TV or shutting down my laptop. I'm just as guilty of this kind of complaint.
I see you, you're monochrome.
But I just have to wonder what the impact of that is. Just to share an example, I am a real life professor, and when I haven't been teaching for that long, but when I first started teaching, you'd walk into a classroom and you'd have 20 students in the room, and you'd have to kind of quiet them down to start class because they would all be interacting with each other. And now I walk into a room and it's dead quiet, and they're never talking to each other. And the transition isn't trying to get everybody to calm down so you can start your thing. It's trying to get everybody to look up.
Isolation. What would you do? What would you?
I think it's a great contrast to your music, because your music is this 90s thing. It's almost like pre-internet music. And then you have these themes about cell phones.
Oh, just that idea that, that I notice more and more the way that whether it's cell phones or other forms of technology, kind of a funny thing to bitch at as we sit here on Zoom, and it's the only way I can connect with you. So exactly. I have to appreciate that aspect of technology bringing us together. But at the same time, just that kind of daily frustration with like trying to connect with people, and you're sitting and having a conversation, and I do the same thing. So I'm not trying to blame other people, but at the same time as we're having a conversation, we're in our phones too, and that idea that we can't seem to kind of break from that, enough to kind of maybe get back to the deeper, more personal connections that maybe people used to have. And, it's just, right. We all have those moments when you're talking to somebody and they're kind of like, when you're in the middle of your sentence, they're looking at their phone and you're like, okay, are you still listening? You're not even sure. And, like I said, I do it too. I'm not blameless in this.
Look around, everyone is gone.
See, my first album, the title of the first album was Time at the End for Questions. Which is something somebody might say before like the start of a meeting or a presentation or something, right? And then my wife had the brilliant idea that my next album should be called Please Silence Your Phones, because that's also something someone would say at the start of some kind of like meeting or presentation. And so I had that line, Please Silence Your Phones, in my head for a while, to the point where I would kind of like start to hum along, and the song kind of wrote itself from there, thinking about the melody I attached to that line, and the themes that we can associate with the daily life that's kind of interrupted and controlled by our phone. Yeah, just as trying to be a thoughtful person and trying to reflect on, how is this stuff helping us and how is it hurting us? And, there's obvious benefits, but there's those kind of ugly downsides as well. That, one thing that I always find just personally really funny is, I grew up around a lot of people that really valued their privacy, and, thought privacy was a big deal. And, it only took a couple of decades for that idea, that traditional sense of privacy anyway, to be totally gone, and here we are.
Please silence your
The last song we can talk about is, I'm going to say it. Wait, Please Silence Your... Have we talked about all the songs already?
Local Deli, I think, was...
Local Deli. Local Deli, of course. Let's talk about Local Deli.
Okay.
Is that a deli near your house, or is this kind of a fictitious deli?
I guess fictitious, it's, I think there's, just thinking about what we were talking about before, technology and the idea of being a creative person. One of the things that I've really appreciate about art is that sometimes art doesn't come from this kind of highfalutin creative process, but sometimes it's just like found, you could say. For example, going back to the end of that song, when I'm like, what the fuck, hurry up, I kind of yell at the end of that song. It wasn't part of the original lyrics. I was just kind of in the middle of recording and ready to do my little guitar riff at the end of the song, and I'm like, what the fuck, hurry up, because I'm sitting there, I've hit record and I'm waiting to do the guitar line, and then it, I yell out that part, and I thought it worked in the song. Local Deli, I'll just say, at one point I was under the influence, and I was gonna make some pizza rolls, and I was digging out the Parmesan cheese, and we had this brand in our refrigerator, Locatelli. And for whatever reason, it started kind of like screaming in my head, Locatelli, Locatelli. Like, well, that's just like a name of a brand. And eventually somehow I was like, Local Deli, okay. That ended up connecting with a story a friend of mine had told me about a deli or a sandwich shop that is somewhat close to here, where I think they were saying their daughter was like walking to work one morning, and there was like a guy laying out back behind this sandwich shop with a needle in his arm. So I had that kind of image in my head of just this like local deli, and there's a line about a guy out back about to tie one off and get high now or something, right? And that just like a skeezy local deli where people are going in to grab something to eat before they go out and party for the night, or continuing the party for the night. Local deli, I like to eat and hit the street and burn down this whole damn town. And again, just think about how art works. Sometimes you find the line, and sometimes later you're like, oh, that should have been the line. There's a part near the end of the song when something about feel like we're speeding up, but really we're just slowing down. And in hindsight, I've always wanted that line to be like, I feel like we're really just grinding down, just to stick more with that like meat imagery, but there's a lot of accidents when you create art, and some of them you're like, you stumble upon a song. I thought the song ended up pretty cool, but it really just came from a stupid kind of moment where I was, had this brand name for Parmesan cheese in my head.
Well, Ben, it's been super nice to talk to you. This is like such a pleasure to be able to do this. And with everything going on in the world, and meet somebody like you, it feels good. So thanks for being on the show. I appreciate it.
Hey, thank you so much. Like I said, Mike, I really appreciate you just doing this series, doing this podcast, doing Room Rock. As you mentioned earlier, I want to do another video for you. I just want to make sure my guitar sounds right. But thanks so much for the outlet. I really appreciate it. And make sure you include this part when you edit this video. I've watched some of your videos on YouTube of yourself performing. You have an incredible voice.
Really?
And I know you were being modest about, I just do me and a guitar, but it's beautiful stuff. So,
really, thank you.
I should be interviewing you next time.
I don't really feel that way, but thank you. I appreciate it so much. Really, that's cool. That's nice to hear. We're looking forward to the next album you release, whenever that's going to be.
All right. Thanks so much, man.
All right. So take care of yourself, Tim. All right, that was it, folks. Episode 5 is in the bag. Sundown Professor. Really nice. I want to thank him, and it was a lot of fun talking to him. For next episode, episode 6, we've got Taken. And Taken is coming to us also from New York, believe it or not. And he's got a nice acoustic front porch style. And what caught my attention was he said on his top of his soundbook page something to the effect that he plays in this kitchen after he puts his 5 children to bed. And it's such a beautiful sentence. And he's a great musician. And now it's put his 6 children to bed. So look out for that on the next 3 Songs podcast. And you guys, thanks for tuning in. I'm your host, Bay. Until next time.